Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio, so today it is time to look at the deck about which I am most excited from Pokémon Sun and Moon. It's Incineroar. Now, just so we're clear, this doesn't mean I think it's going to be the best deck coming out of Sun and Moon, although I think it's going to be good. It is a deck I am most excited about. While we're giving little disclaimers, yes, I've already done a video about the Incineroar card, link in the description. That was my hey, there's a new card out, look at the fun things it can do video. This is my how do we make it into a functioning deck video. That one was about the card, this one's about the deck. Although, the place to start here is the card. 250 HP is immense. Take something like a Mega Rayquaza. With a Sky Field, they can have 8 bench Pokemon. They can do 240 damage. It won't KO Incineroar. That, ladies and gentlemen, is utterly spectacular. Take another fun little example. Let's take a Greninja. Let's say they use Moonlight Slash, returning the energy to their hand. That does 80, double to 160 because of Incineroar's water weakness. Let's say they get off a giant water shuriken as well. They're doing 220 and you are not KO'd. It will take 2 giant water shurikens plus a Moonlight Slash returning the energy to get a one-hit KO on an Incineroar GX. This 250 HP is massive. Although don't forget that both those decks can use Professor Kukui to get up to one-hit KOing. But that's boring. Who wants to worry about that? Now, I like all 3 of his attacks here. For 2 fire and a colourless, 80 damage, 50 more for each heads you can flip from 2 coins. This is not an every turn attack. This is I can't use my GX attack, I've got to get a KO here. Flip 2 coins, on average you're hitting 130, which is not bad. Hit a double heads, which you've only got a 25% chance, but still, could happen. And you're hitting 180, that's pretty good. Your GX attack, 200 plus burn for free energy. Don't forget GX is 1 per game of any description. But with the new burn rules, and I've done a video about that, link in the description, this basically, unless your opponent cannot be affected by special conditions for some reason, will be 220, which, unless you're facing down a stage 2 GX like Incineroar, is going to be enough to get the one-hit KO here. I like this very much indeed. But the main attraction here, the attack I really like, Hustle Blow. 1 fire energy, 10 damage, plus 20 for each fire Pokemon on your bench. Now, in reality, we're probably going to have a Shaman or 2 on our bench to help us set up. But we're going to be using Sky Field, which means at some point our opponent is going to get rid of our Sky Field. That gives you a chance to discard the Shaman, put down a new Sky Field, and then put your fire Pokemon out. No Sky Field, 5 bench Pokemon, 110 for 1 energy. Pretty nice. Sky Field, 8 bench fire Pokemon, 170 for 1 energy. That is even better. Now, there's also a decent attack on Torracat. Now, I'm thinking here because one deck which I think will be big in the new format with Pokemon Sun and Moon is Lurantis Vileplume. Now, I've made a video about that, link in the description, and if I'm saying too many links, it's because I've made a lot of what I consider very relevant videos lately, so I think this is a good thing. Now, the deal with this is that sometimes Vileplume's going to mean you struggle to get your Incineroar out, but you'll get your Torracat. 20 damage, flip 3 coins, 20 for each heads. 1 head, 20 damage, 2 heads, 40 damage, 3 heads, 60 damage, and of course you will be doubling that because of the fire weakness on Lurantis. Or you can use Flamethrower to do 90 damage and discard an energy. Not amazing, but under item lock, if you've got nothing better, it could be a little bit of fun. And as a side note, being able to hit for weakness against what might be the best deck in the format, if you can set up, is pretty gosh darn nice. And as for the water weakness, well, the new promo Giratina, guess where you can find a video about that, is going to really hurt Greninja, so Water weakness isn't going to be that huge, although do remember that Volcanion plays Volcanion EX, which is part water, so will be able to hit you for weakness in that way. More on him in a moment. Now, the good thing here is we've actually got 3 potential starters. First of all, we've got Volcanion, the non-EX Volcanion. You get to do a little bit of damage. You get to do 20 damage. You get to attach 2 energy from your discard to your bench Pokemon, 1 to each of 2 bench Pokemon. It's not bad. It's quite a nice attacker. The retreat cost of 2 hurts a little bit. Have to play cards like Escape Rope or Floatstone to get him out the active. But a very nice starter. Get some damage on the board, get some energy on the board. More importantly, give yourself a couple of turns to hit those rare candies to evolve your Incineroars. Because that is one big downside. Incineroar being a stage 2 means you will need to hit rare candy to evolve him. Speaking of hitting rare candy to evolve him, might I suggest the Talonflame? Now, Talonflame has been very good in decks like Greninja, like Garchomp, and if you start with Talonflame, you can put him as your active Pokemon even though he's a stage 2. He's got free retreat, and for a colourless energy, you can search for any 2 cards and put them in your hand. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You can search for a rare candy and an Incineroar GX. Make sure you can get going on turn 2. Or if you went first, it would have to be turn 3. Hey-ho. Talonflame helps you set up here. Now, you might be thinking, well, hang on a second, Ross. Talonflame isn't a fire Pokemon. Doesn't that mean that he is going to hurt the amount of damage Incineroar can do? Well, no. Because there is a Talonflame break that is a fire Pokemon. So you can start with Talonflame here, and then you break evolve him, so that he has got fire typing and will allow Incineroar to do more damage. And as a fun little side note here, Flare Blitz, 150 for 2 fire energy. That is a pretty nice attack indeed here. And actually, this could be very much fun against Lurantis GX, because that is a one-hit KO, ladies and gentlemen. My problem with Talonflame, and it is a big problem, is space. You really want to be playing cards like Skyfield in this deck, and more we're going to get to, and you're going to need to be playing a whole bunch of fire Pokemon so that you can always have 8 fire Pokemon on your bench. Here, you're playing really 5 spots in your deck for 1 benched fire Pokemon, and if you don't start with Talonflame, you can't break evolve, so if you don't start Talonflame, that's 5 cards of your deck that are doing absolutely nothing. If you can find the space, I love this as an option. Talonflame is an amazing starter, and Talonflame Break's got a really good attack that we will actually use in this deck. Now, the other option for starters isn't an option now, but will be in the near future. It's coming out in the Pokémon Sun and Moon Strengthening Expansion Pack. It is Oricorio, the fire one. Now, I've done a video about him. I've also done a video ranking the Oricorios. That should have gone up yesterday, unless there was some big news I had to get to first. And he just, for 1 fire energy, allows you to search for free fire Pokemon and put them straight onto your bench. That means that if you put Litten on your bench, they start on your bench the following turn and can be evolved up straight away. For the time being, Volcanion's the best starter. Talonflame's amazing if you can find the room, but I get the feeling that as soon as it's legal, Oricorio is just going to be your go-to starter. Now, there are a couple of tools you'll want to be considering in this deck. Again, in the Sun and Moon Strengthening Expansion Pack, so not quite yet, we've got Choice Band. Choice Band allows you to do an extra 30 damage to EXs and GXs, but not to non-EX and GX Pokemon. That's pretty gosh darn good. Huge fan of this. I think it's going to go straight in the deck. And with Oricorio, really what I'm saying here is this deck will become a lot better when the Sun and Moon Strengthening Expansion Pack comes out. For the time being, you don't need a tool on him, but might I suggest Heavy Boots? He's got a retreat cost of 3. Heavy Boots now puts him up to 270 HP, and means he can't be confused. Now, confusion is not a huge thing in the game at the moment, but it's still always a good thing if you can't be confused, and if 250 HP is ridiculous, imagine how ridiculous 270 is. Now, there are some key cards in this deck. This next section, when I say key cards, I mean key cards. I mean, if you're going to play this deck, you need these cards. And there are two I'm really thinking of. Firstly, Skyfield here. This shouldn't surprise you. We want lots of Pokemon on our bench. So we need Skyfield. The other card, which is, I believe, absolutely key here, is Max Potion. And the reason I love Max Potion so much is because this gives the deck the edge. You're using a GX attacker. That means you're giving up 2 prizes every time he goes down. This stops him going down. I've already told you how difficult it is to get the one-hit KO. As a fun little side note here, a Volcanion EX will do 260 to Incineroar, but if you put heavy boots on, you go up to 270 and survive a turn, unless, of course, they put a Fighting Fury belt on. Not the point, thought it was worth mentioning. It all goes to show how difficult he is to actually get a KO on, and you're attacking for 1 energy. And if your opponent is struggling to one-hit KO you, and you're attacking for 1 energy, those are the ingredients to abuse Max Potion here. Your opponent doesn't KO, you Max Potion, attach 1 more energy, keep going. I love Max Potion. I think that is what makes this deck particularly playable. Now, we've also got Level Ball and Timer Ball here. Level Ball gets out Pokemon with 90 HP or less. Timer Ball gets Pokemon that are evolutions. Flip a coin, or flip 2 for Timer Ball. 1 Pokemon of an evolution kind per heads you flip. I'm not saying these cards are absolutely vital. We all know Ultra Ball's the best, but if you want extra ball cards, they're the ones to look at. Now, there are some other options here. They're in the other options category because they might be good on occasion. They might be good sometimes, but they're not quite good enough to really make it into the key card section. Firstly, Arcanine from Pokémon Sun and Moon. Link in the description. He can do, for 4 energy, 190 damage. That is a big, reliable KO. My problem here, we're probably playing, I would say, 8 fire energy as a standard. Because Volcanion attacks for 1 energy, and Oricorio attacks for 1 energy, and Incineroar's best attack is done for 1 energy, so we ain't playing loads of energy. As much as I love the big one-hit KO potential of Arcanine, and I do, and the artwork, as a side note, is stunning, 4 energy in a deck where we're probably only playing 8, not a huge fan. Now, one card which you could consider, this really depends on the space. I feel this is a 1-1 line at best. The Ninetales from Primal Clash. It's the ability here. Each player cannot play any stadiums from his or her hand. So what you do is you get your Skyfield in play, you evolve up to Ninetales, and your opponent cannot get rid of the stadium. It guarantees that your stadium stays. You play 2 Ninetales, a 1-1 line, but then of course you can probably get away with only playing 3 Skyfield if you're playing Ninetales. So it's kind of like 1 space in your deck. There is a lot of Garbodor around at the moment. There is a lot of Hexmaniac, and your opponent can play Hexmaniac, replace the stadium, and then if you don't have a Skyfield on your next turn, Hexmaniac wears off, and Ninetales keeps your opponent's stadium in play. That is not a position I want to be in. With so much ability lock in the format, not a huge fan, and like I've said, opponent plays Hexmaniac, you don't have a Skyfield, you are then locked out of your stadium for the rest of the game. That ain't cool, bro. That ain't cool. Now, we can play Altar of the Sun here. This is a stadium card which is coming out in the Strengthening Expansion Pack I previously mentioned, and it takes away the weakness of your fire Pokemon. If you're playing against a water deck, it might be worth playing one of these, especially if you're playing Ninetales, and you can lock it so that it doesn't go away. It could be fun to play one of these just to take away your weakness, but of course you're also reducing your maximum damage output by 60 by getting rid of your Skyfield, so I'm not a huge fan of this card. You could play one Volcanion EX, really just for the mirror here. As I've said, Volcanion EX hits Incineroar for weakness. It means you can now hit for water weakness. But it's free energy, which is quite a lot given how few you're playing. Something to bear in mind. And the last real attacker here to be considered is Entei. Now this is the non-ancient trait Entei. Because you're already playing Skyfield, 20 damage plus 20 for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. On a basic for 2 energy, it just punishes your opponent for taking advantage of your Skyfield. But again, really here, we're not playing many energy, and we're probably building up to use Incineroar GX's GX attack anyway, so I'm not sure if we really want to be popping 2 energy on a benched Entei. But something to consider, it's an option. The one I do not like here, and I've seen this in some lists, I'm afraid I am dead against this, it is Flareon EX. You don't want to be playing 170 HP Pokemon that gives up 2 prizes. Volcanion EX at least allows you to hit for a different weakness, helps you in the mirror match. Flareon is just another Pokemon that hits for decent damage. But you get free fire energy on a Flareon, you're hitting for 110. Well, you get 5 bench fire Pokemon, and you're hitting 120 for a single energy. Not a fan of Flareon EX. I heartily suggest you don't use him. Now, is this deck any better than just playing Volcanion? I think it is. The higher HP, the difficulty of KOing, and the fact that you can abuse Max Potion, I honestly think makes it a better deck. But then again, maybe the added setup offsets all the benefits. It is at least worth a test, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you know the deal. There is a comment section. Tell me what you think about this deck. There are buttons to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Might I kindly suggest you use them both? You can find me on Twitter @TheWassy, and the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.